Welcome to Sundays at Cafe Tabac, the podcast. This podcast series is an extension of our film's mission to affirm and extol the courage, strength, and joy in our LGBTQ plus community through the preservation and sharing of our personal stories and the collective histories we live through and change. I'm your host, Wanda Acosta. In this episode, we welcome the hardest working man in showbiz, Mr. Murray Hill. Murray is a New York City queer legend, a comedian, a TV host, an MC, and an international entertainer. Wow, this is going to be fun, so buckle up your seatbelts, folks. I am so damn excited to welcome to the studio the hardest working man in showbiz, Mr. Murray Hill. Murray.
Please hold your applause till now, everybody.
Murray Hill is a New York City comedian and drag king legend. He's currently playing Fred Rococo. What'd you say? Is that the right?
Yep, Fred Rococo.
On the HBO series Somebody Somewhere with Bridget Everett, and is the host of the competition show Drag Me to Dinner on Hulu. It's the first time we got some drag king hosting
2,000 years later
a series. And soon you'll be seeing Murray in Paul Feig's film Grand Death Lotto. I'm so happy to see you here, Murray. It's been years.
Wanda, that's the most on the book I've ever heard you as long as I've known you. For your listeners out there, I only ever knew of you from 11 p.m. on till 4 a.m. So it's great that we're both seeing each other during the day.
I know.
Wanda, you're the best.
I dragged you out. I can't believe it.
And I remember you from the Wonder Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then Velvet.
And Starlight.
And then Cafe Tabac, which I didn't know you when I went there.
You didn't know me then.
No, I was a tiny little baby butch looking at all the femmes going, oh my God, it's Christmas morning every Sunday.
Oh, you must have been a hoot back then. I don't know that I remember you either from... Well, no, I do remember you. I was
young.
You.
I had cheekbones.
You were young. You were young and you were running for mayor.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Right? When did you run for mayor? What year was that?
I recently looked back. I think it was 94 or something like that.
Right after Tabac, because Tabac
95.
was 93, 94, 92, 93, 94. So it was right
So
along
I got in there at the end. Yeah, I remember going in there.
Oh, my goodness.
And being like, ooh, I've never seen these kind of homosexual ladies in my upbringing. I could do this.
So we know each other quite a while.
Yeah.
And we were just saying.
Can you do the math on that? What, 20?
At least
something?
almost 30 years.
Oh,
28 years. 28 years. Well.
We're doing great.
We're doing great. And congratulations. You're doing amazing. What a year you've had.
Wanda, it's 30 years and overnight success. I know, it's crazy.
But you've put in the time. You have been working, and God bless, because, it's really easy to just say, you know what, this ain't happening. I'm going to move on to something else. But you have stuck to it, and you're great at it. And finally, here we are.
Thank God. Yeah, when I first started back in the day, when I knew you, I saw such an imbalance of representation. And, we didn't say things like representation and things like that. We didn't say trans. We didn't say even drag king, really, back then. I just knew that it was so imbalanced. Like drag queens, gay men, lesbians, drag kings. Hello. Fast forward 30 years, it's not that different.
Right.
It's still hugely different. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of like, well, how do you reconcile that? Because we have friends in the community, the drag community, the gay community, the trans. Like, we're friends, you and I especially, we cross over. We're friends with everybody.
Right.
So it's like kind of figuring out, like, well, I had a mission to like raise the visibility. And, I'm still doing it.
I wanted to ask you, because when you first started and when I first remember seeing your character as Murray Hill, it was at drag king parties or balls, if you want to call them. You would host and you would have your shtick. Did you start the drag king kind of parties, or were you working in conjunction with other people? And what did you expect out of?
Well, I don't know if you remember this. I started in Flamingo East.
I do remember Flamingo
East.
At
the Nines. And it was on Sunday night.
The Nines was with...
Penelope Tuesday and Fancy.
Oh, it wasn't Adam Gold's.
Yes, that's right.
Goldstone as well, right? Adam
passed,
Goldstone,
right?
who passed away.
Yes, he was in that scene. Yes, absolutely. So that's where I started. That's where Murray was literally born.
Wow.
And after I started doing that for a little while, then there was a drag king night called Club Casanova.
Right, over in the East
at
Village.
Cake. Mm-hmm. So I would, this is back in the day when I used to drink stiff gimlets. Woo!
Oh, boy.
Rough. So I would be lit, I already had done shows at like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I would walk down to Cake and walk too. We just walk there and then do shows at 2 and 3.
Wow.
So that was a set drag king night. Right. That was like the first like weekly drag king night, I think.
And is that when Moby Dick?
Yeah, that was Moby Dick. And Penny and I, the first thing we did there was like a John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, and then I played Coach Bella Caroli, and she was Carrie Strug. So I was like, and then I did Fat Elvis. So I was like,
oh my God, Fat Elvis must have been fun.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I was doing like characters as Murray. And then I ran for mayor, and then after that I just stayed as Murray.
Yes.
Just stayed as this guy.
And the influence for Murray is like that Borscht Belt sort of like comic, like Don Rickles. And
I don't know how. I think it's the universe intervening in some ways, but when I was a kid, I watched Johnny Carson, of course.
We all did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Down in the basement when everybody else was in bed. And, back then in the 70s, he was all those big personalities.
Right.
Like Rickles and like Shecky Green and Buddy Hackett.
Buddy Hackett. He was great.
Yeah. They were just these like, most of them were chubby. Jackie Gleason, these chubby, funny, kind of host of the party, kind of, your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving kind of guys. And they still had an edge, but they were like, warm-hearted.
Right.
So I think I just like, I just kind of
personality.
Yeah, it kind of stuck in there. Not to mention, I'm half Italian. And
I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, well, this half, but you can't. The viewers can't. They can't hear that my stomach's coming out. But all my uncles and my grandparents and my all the relatives that you'd only see at funerals, and they'd always be happy at funerals because there was all the food.
Right.
They all look like mini Murrays.
Yeah.
The women were hardcore.
Right.
Rough.
Yep.
And the guys were these jovial, chubby, short Italian guys. Yeah. Oh, so I kind of became that. And then I dated rough showgirl, crazy women for most of my life. So, I think I absorbed it. I absorbed all of it.
Right. And it was useful for your material, I'm sure.
Yeah, endless.
Endless material.
I'm still drawn from that well. But, also, when I was a kid, I thought I was a boy. Like I thought I was a tomboy. You remember those? Yeah. Remember that term?
Yeah. Oh,
tomboy.
She's a tomboy.
Yeah, of course. That's what they said about me. They were like, she's a tomboy. And I was like, okay, yeah, I like sports. And, I sit with back in elementary school, I don't know if this was your experience, but they separated everything by gender. So the girls had to sit with the girls at lunch in kindergarten, and you had to go to home ec class, and the guys got to go to shop. Class, which was like they build things with tools. Yeah. And
you wanted to hang out with the shop class?
I did. In the beginning, I just did. Nobody thought about it. I went to shop class. I did the tools. I made a bench. And all that kind of stuff. And but I remember kind of specifically like when they were like, "Okay, you can't do that anymore."
Right.
I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And it happened so young. I think it was like kindergarten. I actually, or even in like elementary school. I remember being like, "Well, how come I can't go to shop class anymore?"
Right.
I don't want to like stitch a pillow. The hell do I want to? And I don't want to sit with girls. They're annoying.
I know. I don't play with dolls and stitch a pillow.
No, I like sports and all that.
Ridiculous, right?
Yeah, I was a butch tomboy. Yeah, so that I think kind of caught up with me later too, because I mentioned this when I walked in, but there wasn't so much ID politics or even options when we were in the clubs.
For the language, right?
No, it was butcher femme. That was
exactly. And girl or guy, or you would call each other girl if you were a girl or a boy, or it didn't matter.
And nobody cared because it was loving because we're all on the same team.
Hey, girl. Right.
Yeah, hey, girl. I'm like, hey, you offend me? No, never happened.
Right.
Yeah, so, I didn't have those options or anything like that. So I kind of became a character that was male.
Right. So did you become the male character because in your everyday life it was sort of not so easy for you to be the male character?
Well, I was always in between. I always felt, the
you also
tomboy.
felt it.
Yeah, it was like, I don't want to sit with the girls.
Right.
And I like the boys, but they also stink. Literally, they smell. They still smell. Yeah, I think Murray was like just like a little exaggerated
extension of who you were.
Yeah.
How was your family with your sort of persona and your desire to expand on?
Well, you're not going to be surprised by this because also our generation, a lot of us gay folks, we moved the fuck out of our hometowns to get out and go to the city and find our people,
of course,
our chosen people, and become who we're supposed to be.
Right.
So my family, I was completely estranged from them. When I left, 18, gone. Homophobic, right wing, Irish Catholic, Italian alcoholic, you name it. It's all there.
All there.
And repressed, everything. Conservative, just like
all of it. Yeah.
So I was like, get out of here. And this is the crazy thing, which I don't talk too much. I got a memoir coming out.
I just found out you have a memoir coming out next in 2025.
Yeah, 2025. So I got to get started.
I can't wait. Well, here you go. This is a good. You can start practicing.
Yeah,
have it come up to your psyche.
Showbiz. But you ready for this? So when I was in undergrad in Boston, right, I was starting to come to, so to speak. I came out as gay, right?
Right. In Boston.
Yeah, in Boston.
Where'd you grow up, though?
Connecticut.
Ugh. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was a photography student.
Oh.
And I snuck into the clubs in Boston. Ooh. I was a child. I knew nothing about anything. But I was obsessed with Diane Arbus.
Oh.
And Nan Golden.
Nice.
So I came from a very sheltered place. So I started studying them. And I was like, what? What's this community? Who are these people? And they were celebrated. Like Nan Golden and Diane Arbus, they photographed like people on the margins, but they were their friends and they were like respected.
Right.
So anyway, I was fascinated by the drag community and the trans community. I used to lie and say I was a reporter for the Boston Phoenix.
Oh my God.
To get into the clubs.
Oh, wow.
Are you ready for this? I'm going to drop on you?
Yeah.
The gay clubs are on Commonwealth Avenue.
I
can't remember. It was called Venus de Mile or something like that. Anyway, guess who I have photographs of from back then?
I don't
Lady
know.
Bunny.
No way.
Gerlina.
Oh, wow.
Candace Kane.
From way back then? Because they were performing there?
Yes, they were doing gigs.
Wow.
Can you believe that? And then I always say this when I'm talking about that. They were old then. And they're still alive.
They're still
And now
working.
they're all like, dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And they were dinosaurs when I met them back then. And now I know all
Bunny,
of them.
hearing that?
Yeah. Well, she can't hear you because she's got the hearing aid turned off. They shadow banned her on Instagram for all of her crazy posts. She's not hearing this.
She's not hearing or seeing anything.
No. So, it's wild that it was like full circle. So that influenced me so much because I was like, oh my God. That's when I got like sucked into camp.
So did you make friends with them in Boston, or are you just photographing them and then
they
later on in New York you met up?
Have it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pictures I've ever taken is of Lip Synca, and she was mean and nasty backstage. I don't blame her because I probably had a bob haircut. I deserved. I deserved any wrath that came my way.
You had a bob. You had the win.
I might have. Who knows? It just wasn't cute. Probably overalls. Cheekbones. I was like, hey, can take a pony. She was just like over it, but she was so annoyed at me.
Yeah.
You only have a quick second.
That you got her face?
No, I got this picture of her just looking absolutely regal, and it's like my favorite shot that I've ever taken.
Oh, wow.
Like ever.
She was in costume.
Yeah, she had just done a
awesome.
show, and she just looked.
She must look wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that
You know,
story.
and Candace and Gerlina, I couldn't believe how wild they were.
Yeah.
You know, they used to like jump all over the place and do splits.
They would
and
do splits.
Their
I
legs
remember
were all
Gerlina.
huge.
Yeah.
You remember how tall they were?
Long
Yeah.
legs and doing splits and kicks.
Yeah, no,
high kicks.
I have a picture of her. I'll send you these. I have a picture of Gerlina and Candace Guy doing high kicks.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like 5'4". I know you can't
Like,
tell
whoa.
that on the podcast, but you know, I'm like way underneath the legs, looking up, photographing, so you just see the leg.
So
in the
your
picture.
first career was a photographer and you were doing the clubs in Boston. I love it.
And that's how I got to New York. And I was like, I'm going to do this in New York. I'm going to take photos of drag queens. Boop, 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 boop.
So you wanted to take club photos in New York, and that's what
And then-
got you here?
That's what got me for grad school. At School of Visual Arts.
Oh, I went to school of visual arts.
Oh, shit. Thank God Biden just cleaned my bill because I had to be 80 paying off those loans.
Oh, did you get it clean?
Well, we want to show this. You know why? Because I graduated
Yeah.
in 1927. They're like, I think
it's time.
Yeah, we're going to forgive your loan and forgive you for going to School of Visual Arts. I got to write that down, put it in the act. That's a pretty good joke. Rim shot? Yeah, so I got to New York and did the same thing. I pretended I was working at the Village Voice and snuck in. You ready for this shit? Because I'm sure you've been there.
Oh, wow.
I snuck into Hershey Bar.
Oh, yeah. And you took pictures at
And there was
Hershey?
a drag king pageant or something it was called. And you know who was on there? You're going to have to help me remember her
Dread.
name.
No. Rebecca
Rebecca
Weinberg.
was dressed as some like wild and, you know, funny guy with big chops.
Oh,
I have a picture
I remember that character.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
I can't
remember the name of the
Yeah.
character.
And then everybody else in the show was all like mask and tough and serious. Like it was there was no like camp or comedy except for Rebecca. Like
Rebecca,
she
right,
added a little extra of the like, because
right.
she hung around with drag queens too.
Right.
So I have pictures from that night. I'll never, forget that. Because you remember, it was the meatpacking district
Yeah.
in the 90s,
Yeah, for sure.
and it was rough as fuck.
the clubs over there, Mother and the Click Club and all of those like meatpacking.
all those clubs I went to.
And Hershey, I think, was maybe on 23rd Street at that
Yeah.
point. Mm-hmm.
Somewhere dark. It was dark.
Yeah.
All I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
remember
yeah.
is there was no street lights.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so,
So
full
you
circle.
you were totally involved in the scene, except that you hadn't quite developed your persona
No,
yet.
I was more observing it, and documenting. I kind of had like a little protection lens.
But that's really interesting because you were also like learning and absorbing and visualizing while you were taking all those photographs and
yeah,
being
it was
in
all
it.
everything was like getting formed unconsciously, kind of.
Right, exactly.
Because I was so, and I still am. I'm so into camp as a strategy. Like I love it, but I'm just into it as a way to politically communicate.
Right. And
It's
it works.
positive. It doesn't, turn
Offend
people
people.
off and stuff like, So
But you get your message across.
yeah, and you can all have a good time doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've never been like even back in the old drag king clubs, like I don't know if you remember, like Dread or even some of the old school kids, and today they do it. They take their clothes off and whip out a big
the
dildo
apple and a dildo
do
and a
this. Yeah, the apple. That's right. I forgot about the apple. Oh my God.
Dread with the apple.
Yeah, the apple.
Rest in peace.
Yes, rest in peace. Oh my God. Yeah, so I kind of was influenced by Bunny. You remember this?
Bunny is great.
Yeah, you remember this
Bunny's
thing called
act was
drag
so great.
etiquette? Do you remember that? And you probably don't even remember
No.
this thing. But, I know I'm going to sound like a senior on the show, but hey.
But you are a
showbiz.
senior.
I am
In
now.
1927 you
Yeah,
graduated.
I got my AARP card this year. And, back, and this kind of goes to but coming to New York to reinvent yourself or to find yourself. But, like, back then, nobody knew my name. We didn't even have dead name.
Right,
It was our names were so dead they were fucking buried 6 feet under. Like nobody asked you where you grew up, what your name was, like where you live, if you have a job, if you have parents, if you have siblings. Like you were what you presented.
Right.
And then you were treated and respected as that, right?
Exactly.
So I knew Bunny I still don't know Bunny's name. I did see her out of drag once, and I thought it was Bruce Valanche, and I've never, and I love Bruce Valanche. I just saw him not too recently, but I've never recovered from seeing Bunny,
out of drag.
Now, when I not got my mustache, I basically look the same, but I have Bunny on the. But anyway, but yeah, it was like you didn't.
Yeah.
So even today, there's like.
And you never would even contemplate seeing them out of drag. It's
and you
true.
You wouldn't even ask them.
Right.
You know, and there was some negatives about that because then you could just be a complete, party every fucking night and live this whole other life. And then,
because you wouldn't be recognized.
Yeah,
right?
and nobody, in the downtown scene back then would be like, I think you're partying a little too much. Because we all were.
You're exactly.
So you could exist in this whole other.
But what was the drag etiquette? That's what you were mentioning before. Like you don't ask anything.
You didn't break your persona. Mm-hmm. Like you were that person. So I stuck to that. I was like, I'm never gonna, and I don't even. That's why I don't even say like I'm a drag king or anything. I'm a Murray.
You're a Murray, and you're a great. We love Murray.
Murray Hill. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Don't think about it too much.
You don't need to know anything else.
Yeah. If you see my show, I say the same joke. I'll say it for him because every time there's somebody new, it's like I'm doing new material. So this guy's looking at me, and I can read his mind. He's thinking, is it a man or a woman? Is it a man or a woman? Sir, the answer is no. I always say that.
Right.
As like a kind of
am
a litmus test.
Am I a man?
Yeah, no.
The answer's no.
Yeah, and the answer's no. Like, what? Huh? And if they don't laugh, then I always say, well, it's going to be the longest 2.5 hours of your life tonight.
Your shows. Are you having any shows at Joe's coming up?
I got to get started.
When is that?
I got some in mid-October.
Oh, that's soon.
Yeah, I know. And then the Christmas show is back on.
Oh, we love the Christmas show.
Yep, Christmas show. I've been doing that for 100 years.
I love that. And you have so many fun friends that come on and join you on stage. How is Bridget?
And now all my friends, speaking of Bridget, we're all 50 plus.
Yeah.
So now it's a bunch of middle-aged downtown people who should be retiring and be in assisted living homes.
The best.
But we're still out there. We're like doing the hey, we're going to put on a show. Get my walker.
Have a blast. I know. I just saw Joey Arias at Joe's last month. And, Joey, like all of us, is up there.
Oh, yeah.
And is still
more up there than us.
More up there. And he's still doing it. And God bless him. And
I see Joey
great.
at Suzanne's shows. When I do Suzanne shows, he's still kicking it. Yes, I love Joey.
No, he did a great show. It was great. Cracks me up, though. Yep. So, Murray, I have to ask you, because I've watched the show and it's wonderful. How is it working with Bridget and your wonderful cast on your show?
Well, Bridget and I obviously been friends forever. She got to New York, I think, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And she used to do this show at the Ritz. Do you remember that?
Of course.
Like, what was that on 40th? I never went up there because that was gay Hell's Kitchen vibe.
It was in Hell's Kitchen, yes, in the 40s. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she did, she would stop by there and do a couple songs. And all the gay guys were like, who is this? Oh, my God. Instantly loved her. And she was wild.
Yeah.
I mean, she's still wild.
Yeah.
But she was like really wild back then. And I was doing shows down on Lower East Side at Mo Pickens and Fez and that whole scene.
Oh, wow, yeah, Fez.
So the old days, when I met her, it was like instant. My friend was like, hey, Bridget just moved, to New York. And I was like, what are you doing Saturday night? Want to be in my show at Mo Pickens? The Murray Hill Show. You're on at 9. And she was like, okay. And she used to wear this corset and black panties. That was her.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was her out and pumps.
Yep. I love it.
And then a big, dirty deli bag as her purse. Yeah. She now has like a Louis Vuitton type of thing.
Exactly.
Showbiz. But I mentioned this because we both slugged in the clubs. Like, we didn't do comedy clubs at all.
You did the nightclubs.
We did nightclubs. And that's like, I probably takes a little bit longer, 20 years longer maybe. But the nightclubs, you can be original and you can be celebrated for that, right? And no one could put either of us in a box.
Right.
It's just like, it's too impossible. So,
and not censor you either. Like, because the audience, the audience and they know you and it's fine.
Yeah, they're not like judging you like, oh, you're gay or you're chubby or you're this or you're 40. It's like, fuck that.
Right. Downtown
and the gay community is kind of like a gutter. They take anything in. That's actually not a joke. It's a fact.
Exactly.
But we'll welcome anybody.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Another person's trash is another's treasure.
There you go.
So anyway, I say all this because you know, Bridget and I have been trying to get on TV forever.
Right.
Literally. And it's no. Too niche, too original. Like all the things that should be good. You know, we don't know what to do with you. You're too risky. You know, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. No.
Right. Who's the audience? Right.
Yeah, all that crap. Like the gatekeepers, no.
Did Logo never, remember back in the day, Logo, because they were the only ones really showing any kind of gay content.
No, and now they only show, I think they only show.
Are they even around?
10,000, what's that? The Pyramid Game Show and Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is gay content.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another story. But yeah, so, you know, it's just full on rejection. So we just kept doing live shows. So she got a pilot on Amazon and she got to make one, and then that didn't make it. And then it was like back to, Joe's Pub, you got to keep grinding. It's never going to happen. Now it's never going to happen for anybody.
Right.
And then, you know, she got this, several years later, got another opportunity with...
Was that when she did the film?
She had done Amy Schumer's show a bunch.
Okay.
She did the Comedy Central special.
Right.
And she did Patty
Great
Cakes.
Patty Cakes. That
Which was wonderful.
She was great in Patty Cake.
Yeah, so she started getting more, you know, and that's the thing. It's changed a little bit, but before it's like you, like other people, like with me, like they need to, the gatekeepers need to see you in a traditional sense, and they're like, oh, actually, they're not so frightening.
Right.
You know, it's all about homophobia, transphobia,
Exactly.
all those wonderful words that we hate.
Yeah.
So anyway, she hooked up with Carolyn Strauss, who used to run HBO. Now she's independent. And she said, she's queer, big success. And she saw, you know, she saw something special in Bridget. And they got together and they started writing, and they brought in some writers, and they created this whole story based on, you know, loosely based on Bridget's life.
Right.
And luckily, the writers put in a character that was based on me.
I love it.
And you know, the old lore, or the what's that word called, the wives' tale, is I'm the only one in the show that didn't have to audition to play
Your part.
my part. And thank God, because this is what I say, because if I had to audition for the part that was played to play me, I wouldn't have gotten it. I've done self-tapes for auditions for parts that have been written for me, and I didn't get it.
Really?
Showbiz.
Interesting. Huh. So, yeah, so that part was perfect then. So you got it, you're on it, you're fantastic, and I'm sure
it's wild
that has also like created more exposure, not only for yourself, but for Bridget and the stories, and recognizing that, yeah, queer people can play these roles.
It's validating in kind of a sick way, because you can always say, oh, I don't want to be validated. But it's like just the fact that me and Bridget got on there on HBO, you know, on Sunday nights, you know, as ourselves, really.
And picked up for another
season 3. And like, you know, we're a little tampered down on the show. It's like the Misfits got to play in the big leagues, and people loved it. And I think they related, and this is what people always say, you guys have so much heart. You know, we can relate to you so much. You're so real. And, you know, when people say real, that means, okay, we're overweight. That's part of it, right? But the other part is, I think it's from doing nightlife. Because when you're doing stand-up comedy or you're doing acting, like LA actors, right? You're doing other people's material. You're trying to get that material perfect,
right? That
and
character,
deliver it, and all that kind of stuff. So you're presenting it, but when you are the person, when you're the persona, it's a different relationship with the audience.
It has more heart, right?
It's more heart because it's who we are.
Yeah, because it's real.
And then, you know, we're not trying to nail jokes. We're trying to put on a good show.
Right.
You know, we want the applause. We want the fun. We want to have some laughs. You know, we're up there singing. We're dancing. You know, all that stuff. So I think the New York nightlife is like direct, like responsible for people's reaction to us. So it's kind of like, that's how we put our, you know, we didn't go to acting school.
Right.
Or
I love
trained
it.
or anything that, you know.
I know, and it seems, I mean, and the characters do seem very natural, you know. So that's, yeah.
And, you know, for me, I have to, like, you know, I'm loud today in here, but, you know, I basically.
You got to tamp it down.
Yeah, I got to be like. Hey,
you are you are like that.
Hey, Sam, what can I do for you? That's my acting. I just whisper. A whisper for me is still playing at the back of the room. I don't even know how to talk quietly. Look at me. I'm trying to do it right now. That's my acting. But just quiet.
Just quiet. That's yeah, exactly. That's your method acting, quiet.
Remember LeTigre?
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
I was on one of their records, and Kathleen Hanna, who was, they were in the recording booth and I was in the studio, much like this, and she kept, through the intercom. Yeah, can you do another take with like less personality? And then I try it, and then she go
less, and
then she goes, okay, just no personality, just read the line
and whisper it.
And I was like, that's it, that's the one.
Well, thank God you have that personality, Murray, and it's certainly coming in handy in your Drag Me to Dinner
holy
show.
Shit. Now,
because that you can be really, big.
So that's exciting.
And
that's
you're
the first time
competing
I
with the
hosted.
drag queens.
Can you believe I held my own?
I know.
And I look like the sane person in that show, which might say how crazy the drag queens are. But that show was wild, totally unscripted. And then I pretty much had the only, it wasn't really a script, but just like the basic beats I had to hit. Mm-hmm. Like now we're going to cooking over here. Now we're going to cook over there. Right. But, it was a dream come true for me because somebody somewhere, I got to memorize all the lines. And we can improv, but you always have to get what's written first.
Right.
So, that's a different muscle when you work the clubs.
That's not so easy.
Doing that stuff. So it dragged me to dinner. I had it was the size of a football field teleprompter. And it was like size 20. I was like, no, up the fonts. I could see it. If I was sleeping in bed, passed out, I could read that.
Oh my God.
And it was a dream come true because I had the teleprompter in the back and then I had one on the actual camera. To me, it was freeing because I could read it and then go off and be crazy and then come back to it.
Right.
So I felt like that was my sweet spot.
That's wonderful.
So I'm trying to do some more of that.
That's on Hulu. And how many episodes have you done of Drag Me to Dinner?
I think we did 8.
Oh, okay.
Or 10 maybe.
Do you have any participation in who competes?
Nobody knew anything until we showed up.
So it's a surprise for you.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing about that show is, we had to start filming at 7 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So the beginning of that show, when the drag queens come through the curtains and
that's
they're introducing.
in New York?
Yeah. No one's been up that early ever. Yeah. So they're already
on
up
full
in makeup.
makeup.
So, half of the queens were already by 8 a.m. loaded.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, like Vanya showed up with, bottle of tequila on her walk-on, and then by lunch, gone. And then every time a balloon, pops, she goes, oh, my God, there's a shooting. We're like, no, we're okay. We're inside. That's just a balloon.
Oh my
but God. It was like a reunion. I got to see everybody.
You got to see
I
everyone.
knew most, except for the younger ones. I knew most of them.
Right. Oh, my God. That must be a hoot.
It was nuts.
Crazy.
It's nuts. Circus.
So let me get a little serious on a serious note.
Okay, I'm ready for this. Serious.
You're ready for this. We know all this legislation that's been going around for the trans and, the gays and the drag queens and the drag kings. I was wondering, what are your feelings on this? And have you experienced any, pushback?
Well, I mean, yeah, it sucks. It's a dumpster fire. I think I'm at an age where I've never felt safe. Mm-hmm. So I never lived my life feeling like, oh, everything's fine. The world's changed.
Right.
Maybe a little minute when Obama was there, I was like, okay.
We got happy.
Yeah, we're all right. But so I didn't grow up with that. So I've always been on the defense. And that sucks to kind of go through life like that. So I think as things have gotten bad, again, that kind of defense mechanism and survival is kicked back up. Mm-hmm. I go to therapy, of course. 25 years in therapy. Doing great. But, I do struggle with, what to do with the anger, a part of it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I have to actually work at it to, channel the anger into something productive. I'm not an angry person. Maybe I should be. That's what my shrink says sometimes. And anger is important to deal with some of this stuff, too.
Of course.
But, so I try to filter all that, those feelings and the anger and the hypocrisy and the just insanity. Mm-hmm. I try to put it through the Murray filter.
Right.
Which is kindness, having a warm heart, and creating like safe spots where people can come, even if it's like it's my show or it's doing a podcast or it's walking down the street or whatever it is, that, you know, it's like a sixth sense. And unfortunately, it's developed out of necessity to survive.
Right.
But of like disarming people. And it's like, you know, you can't, I definitely believe like you can't hate someone if you're laughing.
Right.
You know, so if, you know, I come across shit all the time. Stares, heckles, whatever it is. But, you know, I try to like, you know, build the bridge. I just try to be who I am. You know, I was down in Florida and I'm like, no, I'm not going to not go to Florida. I'm going to go to Florida and be me, be Murray. I'm going to go to the drag club. I'm going to see my buddy who's performing at the other place. I'm going to be, you know, it's what they say in rehab, keep your side of the street clean.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna change who I am because I'm not the one that has a problem.
Right, and they got the problem. And I think it's important for you to keep visible and influential and have and keep your warm heart and keep people laughing and turn things around so that folks aren't so petrified and afraid of like this unknown in their heads of what, you know, queer, trans, drag people are.
And that's why I like about the shows. All the shows that I'm in, you know, I am like myself. I'm not like Fred, like who's, you know, a depressed trans man who's getting beat up in an alley or, you know, like it's not negative. It's just I get to be like everybody else. And that's kind of been my thing from day one. I got a heart. You got a heart. We're really more the same, but different. If you meet people in an emotional level, rather than a fear-based, you know, that's where I think it's...
Yeah, or anger, or like, you know...
Because like none of the things I do on TV is, they're not angry, they're subversive in a way, but they're not like these threatening characters and like waving flags. It's just like, hey, it's Fred, hey, it's Murray, hey. Yeah. You know?
Exactly.
Come on, who doesn't want to go out to have, you know, chicken McNuggets with this guy?
Have you found, since you've had more popularity, that your show audiences have changed? Do you find that people that have never seen you perform are coming to your shows?
Well, I definitely have seen this with Bridget because it's been a weird little, like, where the strike, and then there's this, and then there's the COVID and all that stuff. But, like, I said this to Bridget when I go to her show. It's called the TV bump. There's something about TV that it takes away the hard work you got to do in that opening monologue because they feel like they already know you and they already like you, right? So live performance is already, you know, trying to get them to be on your team and laugh and, you know, feel comfortable and stuff. So I was in Vegas just last week. And I was doing a show with Brian Newman and Angie Pontani. You probably remember the Pontani from the old days.
The Pontani sisters.
And now I was there before the pandemic. And, you know, we don't go on till like 12:30 in the morning. And the last time I was there was a little rough. You know, because that's a rough slot to go on as a comedian. Because people are raging, they're drunk. They've been drunk for days.
Right.
So, but this time, I'm just waving to some fans. But this time I had the TV bump. It's like they were like, oh, I love you on that show. I love you. And so they already were like, okay, they
could already relate to you somehow and were familiar with you.
Yeah, so I didn't have to prove myself. I just had to entertain them. So it's like a very different energy. So I'm hoping that in the October shows that I will get the TV bump and then I'm going to maybe make them a little bit shorter.
But I think that's great because, listen, for any show you want to have, you know, your audiences grow. But if like audience members that maybe would never consider going to a Murray Hill show, you know, a straight couple or whatever, like kids from out of town, can now recognize you because they've watched the show and now are curious and come and see your show and then see maybe guests that you bring on your show, you know, it just expands their whole perception of what
heck
you know,
is this?
Yeah.
And
but it's a good thing. It's positive.
And I do a type of comedy that, you know, people really don't do anymore, probably for a good reason. But so they're getting that too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the young kids don't know the Borscht Belt type of humor. And, you know, I was saying like, you know, a young trans kid got upset with me. Like, I think they're in their 20s or something. And I said, oh, you look like my son. Or my daughter, or my son, I'm not sure. And they were so mad.
Oh, they got offended.
You know, and all this stuff. But I'm like, no, I'm saying you're my kid.
Yeah.
You know, or like two gay guys, two gay guys together. I'm like, great guys, great to see you. Where's your wives tonight? And they're like, I'm gay. I'm like, duh. So it's like
they don't get the humor.
Well,
right?
it's that thing I think that's different but it's also I can learn from the younger generation is I know my history. I know I've been part of the queer community. I've been living it. I've been out in the streets, pounding it for decades before they were born.
Right.
So when I make a comment like that to a younger gay person, I'm doing it from on the same team. Right? Like, you know, like,
right.
because we mentioned that earlier, like we'd call each other girl, you know, because we were all on the same team.
Right.
It was like endearing.
Like we can do that with each other.
Yeah, we
right.
can wink, 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 haha, you know. And now I think there's more infighting, and then there's like, okay, well, I'm this way. You need to address me this way, that way,
right.
that way. You're the enemy. I'm like, well,
right.
actually, I'm not the enemy. I'm old, but I'm not the enemy.
Right.
You know, I'm actually I'm
on your side.
Community.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're the enemy.
Been there, done that.
So,
right.
you know, but there's stuff to learn from both sides. But yes, but that kind of camp humor, like that Don Rick, you know, like Shecky Green, like Buddy Hackett, it's like, you know, they got on the talk shows and they would say to the host, why are you looking at the teleprompter to say my name? You don't know my name? My name's Don Rickles. What, you got to read the cue card for Don Rickles? You know, it's funny.
Yes, it is. It is.
So that's a long story.
Right.
I use humor to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started using humor. Is a way to make things better. And I could do it on a small level, and with TV, you can do it on a little larger level.
Well, I love it. And we love you. And if there's anything else you'd like to mention while we're here.
I want to mention how beautiful you are, and you are the best. You've been a staple in the queer community. Really. Our goals are not too different.
No.
Because nobody was doing parties for, you know, the gay, women, female, dress nice demographic. You know? It didn't exist.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It just didn't exist. And also older women went to your events
just
and stuff.
having safe space for queer community, for lesbian women and
which still, and that's why you're a pioneer. So I want to make sure she's getting her love, because that's the thing with me too, is we come from that. It's like, I always say, if you don't see yourself represented, go out and represent yourself. So you went out and created that space. You went out and worked at that place. And it's not easy doing the thing every week for years and years.
No, it isn't.
You know, the money,
and getting people to come out,
drama, the making flyers, the drink sales, this, that. You know, but you did it, and you provided a space. And so, you know, hey, we're still here.
We're still
and
here.
We're both
and I'm
uptown.
And we're both uptown. And I'm so happy to see you, Murray. It's been a bit. It's been a minute through ups and downs, and you look great. And congratulations on all your successes.
Thank
and
you, Wanda.
more.
You too.
And congratulations on. We won't mention. We could cut this offline too, but on your engagement.
No, there's no strike on that. Yep. You heard it here second, ladies and gentlemen.
Mary
I asked my
no longer
lady friend to marry me, and I never thought I would want to get married. I've been engaged 3 times. You've never heard anyone say 4th time is the charm. Showbiz. And I did it, and you know what? Anything's possible.
I love it. Well, congratulations and much love. And I can't wait. When you got a date, or you're just like, you know, planning?
Well, Wanda, I didn't know there was a second part to this. So don't get me in trouble. I'm like, wait, I got to do something else now?
One thing at a time. Exactly. Oh, that's
Showbiz.
Wonderful. Yes.
All right, that's it, Wanda. You're the best.
I love you. All right. Well, thank you.
I love you too. See, I got emotional. Showbiz.
It's showbiz, kids. And Murray is out.
And scene.
Woohoo! Well, that was a blast. Congratulations, Murray, on your engagement, and definitely wishing you the best. If you want to see and hear more of Murray, tune in to Somebody Somewhere on HBO or catch Drag Me to Dinner on Hulu. If you are in New York City or happen to be in New York City next week, Murray will be performing at Joe's Pub October 13th and 14th. And for a jolly good time, don't miss his annual holiday show, A Little Murray Christmas, December 12th through the 16th, also at Joe's Pub. And I highly recommend. Thank you for listening. For more, subscribe to Sundays at Cafe Tabac, the podcast. You can also learn more about us and our film at cafetabacfilm.com and at Cafe Tabac Film on social media. Please share your thoughts with us, and if you have a coming out story that you'd like to share, reach out to us. This episode was recorded at the Newsstand Studio at Rockefeller Center, here in the heart of New York City. Special thanks to Joseph Hazen and Karen Song for their support. See you next time.